Have you ever opened your eyes at 3 a.m. and wondered, why now? Why does it keep happening? You're not in pain, you're not having a nightmare. But there you are, fully awake, while the rest of the world is fast asleep. If you're over 60, this isn't just coincidence. It's not just aging either. These early wake-ups have meaning. And in this video, we're going to explore what your body and your mind might be trying to tell you. We'll walk through 5 deep, little-known reasons why so many older adults wake up at exactly the same time each night, not just once, not just randomly, but again and again. And each reason offers a powerful insight into what's going on beneath the surface, in your sleep hormones, your internal rhythms, your health, and even your heart. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about understanding yourself, with compassion, wisdom, and a little bit of science. So grab a warm drink, settle in, and stay with us to the end, because once you understand why this is happening, you won't just sleep better, you'll live better too. The natural drop in melatonin. Have you noticed that the nights feel longer as you age, even when you're technically sleeping the same number of hours? There's a quiet chemical at the center of this mystery. It's called melatonin, the hormone your brain uses to manage sleep. When you were younger, your body produced melatonin like clockwork. As the sun went down, your brain would begin releasing this gentle signal that it was time to wind down. It didn't just help you fall asleep. It helped you stay asleep. Deep, uninterrupted, nourishing sleep. The kind you could count on. But as the years pass, that production naturally declines. It's not a failure, it's not a disease, it's part of the biological rhythm of aging. By the time you're in your 60s or 70s, your pineal gland, the tiny structure in your brain responsible for releasing melatonin, simply doesn't work the way it once did. The supply gets weaker, and that weakening usually peaks during the second half of the night. That's why so many older adults fall asleep just fine, but wake up around 2:30 or 3 a.m. feeling wide awake, restless, or oddly alert, even if the room is quiet and dark. This isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a sign that your body's chemistry is changing, and it needs different support now. Let's talk about a man named Harold. He's 72, lives alone, and spent most of his life as a night owl. For decades, he could sleep until 8 or 9 without issue. But recently, he's been waking up at 3:15 a.m., almost on the dot. Not from a noise, not from a nightmare, just awake. At first, he blamed stress, or maybe a dream he couldn't remember. But when he talked to his doctor, he learned about melatonin decline, and everything began to make sense. The doctor explained that melatonin doesn't just turn on sleep, it helps maintain it. And in the early morning hours, when melatonin is at its lowest, that's when older adults are most likely to wake. So Harold made a few changes, and nothing extreme. He dimmed his lights in the evening. He stopped watching TV an hour before bed. He started taking a short walk after dinner to help cue his brain that it was still daytime. And here's a small but powerful trick. He bought blackout curtains. You see, as we age, we become more sensitive to even small amounts of light. That blinking alarm clock, the glow from a street lamp, the hallway nightlight, all of those can suppress melatonin further, especially when it's already low. With these changes, Harold didn't stop waking up at 3 a.m. completely, but when he did, he stopped fighting it. Sometimes he meditates, sometimes he sips warm water and journals for a bit. But more often now, he drifts back to sleep peacefully, no longer blaming himself or thinking something's wrong, because the truth is, waking up isn't the problem. The guilt and frustration around it is. When you understand that this is a natural hormonal shift, not a personal failure, you can begin to treat your body with more kindness. And that shift in mindset, it can be just as healing as any pill or supplement. So if you've been waking up at 3 a.m. and wondering why, start here. Melatonin. Not just the supplement you buy at the pharmacy, but the hormone your body has relied on for decades. It may not be what it once was, but with small changes and self-compassion, you can support your natural rhythms. Instead of resenting them, your internal clock has shifted. What if waking up at 3 a.m. isn't insomnia, but your body's way of saying good morning, just a little too early. As we age, our internal clock, known as the circadian rhythm, begins to shift. This biological timing system is responsible for regulating when we feel alert, when we feel sleepy, and even how our hormones are released throughout the day. For most of our adult life, our circadian rhythm keeps us in sync with the world, awake during the daylight, drowsy at night. But around age 60 and beyond, something interesting starts to happen. The rhythm moves earlier. We start to feel sleepy earlier in the evening, and without realizing it, our body begins to expect morning hours ahead of schedule. This phenomenon is known as advanced sleep phase syndrome. It's not a disease, it's not even dangerous, but it can be confusing, especially when you're waking up in total darkness hours before sunrise and wondering why your mind feels ready to start the day. Let's meet Charles, a retired math teacher in his late 60s. He used to go to bed at 11 p.m., wake up around 7, but after retirement his days got quieter. Dinner at 5:30, TV at 7, lights out by 9. Before long, his body began adjusting to this new routine. Now he finds himself wide awake by 3 or 3:30 a.m., even without an alarm clock. At first, Charles thought he was developing a sleep disorder. But when he learned about this natural phase shift, he stopped blaming himself and started adjusting instead. Here's what's happening inside. Your sleep drive, the pressure that builds up the longer you're awake, may still be strong. But your circadian rhythm is winding down earlier and sending your brain signals to release melatonin ahead of schedule. By the time 3 a.m. arrives, your body may have already had its full cycle of rest, even if your brain feels otherwise. This can be deeply frustrating, especially if your lifestyle, family needs, or social rhythms don't match this new biological timing. You may want to stay up and watch a movie with loved ones, but find yourself dozing off halfway through, or maybe you long to sleep in, but your body is already pulling you into the day before dawn. The good news, this rhythm can be gently adjusted. For Charles, it was about sending his body subtle, consistent cues. He began reading under brighter light in the evening. He took brief walks after dinner to delay melatonin production. He even made it a habit to call his daughter around 8 p.m., a small, joyful routine that kept his brain more engaged later in the evening. The result? His sleep window shifted by nearly an hour, and his 3 a.m. wake-ups turned into 4:30 or even 5. Not perfect, but better aligned with how he wanted to live. This isn't about fighting your biology. It's about working with it, understanding that as the seasons of life change, so do your internal settings. Think of it like your body's clock being gently nudged forward by time and experience, not broken, just different. So if you're waking up at 3 a.m., take a look at your evening habits. Are you winding down too early? Is your environment too calm too soon? Are you missing stimulating activities in the evening that once kept you awake longer? These small cues matter, and by adjusting them gently, you can shift your sleep window closer to where you want it to be, not by force, but by rhythm. Physical discomfort and health-related interruptions. At 3 a.m., the world is still. No traffic, no phones, no distractions, but inside your body, small signals are moving, and sometimes they're just loud enough to wake you up. For many older adults, the cause of early morning wake-ups isn't psychological, it's physical. And often it's subtle, a full bladder, a stiff joint, a little cramp in the calf. Tiny discomforts that during the day wouldn't even register, but in the silence of night, they're impossible to ignore. Let's take Eleanor as an example. She's 76 and describes herself as mostly healthy, but over the past year, she's been waking up around 3:30 a.m. almost every night. At first, she blamed the usual suspects: stress, aging, maybe too much TV before bed. But when she finally spoke with her doctor, they discovered something more basic. One of her medications was affecting her hydration and bladder sensitivity. That's right, many medications commonly prescribed to older adults can subtly interfere with sleep. Diuretics, blood pressure pills, or even certain pain medications can lead to increased nighttime urination, dry mouth, muscle twitching, or temperature sensitivity, all of which can cause a light but real awakening around the same time each night. There's also arthritis, reflux, restless legs, or even just aging muscles that don't appreciate being still for too long. You may fall asleep easily, but after 4 or 5 hours in the same position, the discomfort builds and your body stirs. And here's something few people talk about. Your body becomes more sensitive with age. Your nervous system, once busy and distracted, is now more tuned in. It responds faster to pain, pressure, cold, or internal urges. So that same tiny ache that wouldn't bother you at noon, it might be what nudges you awake at 3 a.m. But here's the key. These wake-ups aren't a sign of weakness. They're a sign that your body is communicating, and you can respond gently and wisely. Try keeping your room warm but not stuffy. Use pillows to support achy joints or adjust your sleeping position. Stay mindful of when you drink fluids in the evening. A glass of water at 6 p.m. is fine. At 9 p.m., maybe not. And consider tracking your nighttime wake-ups in a small journal. What did you eat that day? When did you take your medication? Was there something about your posture or room temperature that felt different? These little notes can uncover patterns that point to small, fixable causes. Eleanor, for example, shifted her medication schedule slightly under her doctor's guidance. She also started using a body pillow to reduce pressure on her hips and knees. Now when she wakes up at 3:30, it's less frequent, and when she does, she can often return to sleep more easily. Because here's the truth, your body isn't trying to ruin your sleep. It's doing what it was always designed to do, protect you, alert you, and help you heal. What feels like an inconvenience might actually be a helpful signal, and the more we learn to listen to those signals with patience, not frustration, the more empowered we become in managing our health. Lifestyle habits that quietly shift your sleep. Rhythm. Sometimes the reason you're waking up at 3 a.m. isn't about your body changing. It's about your life slowing down. Retirement brings freedom. Your schedule softens. The pressure to stay active late into the evening fades. And slowly, without even noticing, your days grow quieter. And your nights begin earlier. You eat dinner at 5 p.m. instead of 7. You stop moving as much in the afternoons. You find yourself nodding off on the couch before 9 p.m., not out of exhaustion, but simply out of habit. Over time, these patterns become cues, and your brain listens, because your body doesn't just respond to the clock on the wall, it responds to rhythm. And when your rhythm shifts to an earlier, slower pace, your sleep does too. Let's talk about Walter, a 74-year-old widower who recently transitioned from a structured work life to a quiet retirement. He used to spend his days teaching, walking around campus, driving home, preparing meals late, and talking to colleagues and students. Now, his days are peaceful. Dinner by 5:30, a light show on TV, a quiet home. By 8:45, his body starts telling him it's time for bed. And often, he listens. But here's the thing. If your body falls asleep at 9 p.m. and you get a full 6 hours of rest, it makes perfect sense that you'd wake around 3 a.m. Your body thinks the night is over. This doesn't mean you're broken. It means your external habits are reshaping your internal clock. There's another layer here too. Blood sugar and digestion. Eating too early without a bedtime snack can sometimes cause a drop in blood sugar in the middle of the night. A drop that's just enough to alert the body and stir you from sleep. And if you go to bed too soon after eating, especially with certain foods, acid reflux or digestion issues can surface later in the night. Even something as small as an afternoon cup of coffee, which might have had no impact in your 40s, could still be lingering in your system at 3 a.m. in your 70s. That's because your metabolism slows with age and caffeine stays in the bloodstream longer. So what can you do? The answer isn't to overhaul your life. It's to gently reshape it. Walter, for example, began delaying dinner by 30 minutes. He added a short walk after eating, turned on brighter lights in the evening, and stopped falling asleep in the recliner. He also began avoiding coffee after 1 p.m. and added a small protein-based snack, like a piece of cheese or a spoonful of peanut butter, before bed. These were minor shifts. But within a few weeks, his 3 a.m. wake-ups became 4:30 a.m. ones, and sometimes he even slept straight through. This chapter is about awareness. It's about understanding how the shape of your day quietly informs the quality of your night. If you're Life has grown slower, and it likely has. Your body may be adjusting accordingly, and it may need a bit of help finding a new rhythm. So take stock of your habits. Are your evenings too calm, too soon? Are your meals too early or too light? Is your sleep rhythm reflecting the shape of your current life rather than the one you want to live? The beauty of routine is that it can be reshaped, gently, intentionally, with care. Emotional and psychological restlessness. Not every 3 a.m. wake-up comes from your body. Sometimes it's your heart that wakes you, and in the quiet hours of early morning when the world is still and distractions are few, old emotions, long buried beneath the noise of daily life, begin to stir. You may not feel anxious. You may not even know what you're feeling, but you're awake. And your mind begins to wander, through memories, through moments, through quiet questions that never had time to be answered. This is what we call emotional restlessness, and for many older adults, it's a natural, even necessary, part of aging. Because as life slows down and routines grow simpler, the busy distractions that once kept our thoughts at bay begin to fade. And into that silence, our inner life begins to speak. It's not a breakdown. It's not depression, it's reflection. Take Gloria, for instance. She's 80, widowed, a retired nurse who spends her days gardening, chatting with grandchildren, and watching her favorite shows. From the outside, she seems perfectly at peace. But around 3 a.m. she often wakes, not from pain, not from noise, but from a strange sense of alertness. Her thoughts drift to her late husband, to things left unsaid, to memories that arrive uninvited, tender and real. For a long time, Gloria thought something was wrong, but over time she realized her body wasn't broken. Her heart was simply asking to be heard, and that's what many people overlook about aging. There's a rich emotional world that unfolds later in life, not because we're weak, but because we've lived. We've collected stories, relationships, regrets, triumphs, and sometimes at 3 a.m. our mind finally has space to process them. This kind of wake-up doesn't need to be feared. It needs to be met with gentleness. Gloria began keeping a journal by her bed. When she wakes, she writes a few thoughts, nothing profound. Just a note, a memory, a name. She also started listening to soft music before bed, something familiar that warms the soul, and once a week she writes a letter to a friend, not to send, just to reflect. These quiet acts gave her emotions somewhere to go, a release. And with that, sleep returned more easily, because sometimes it's not your body that needs adjusting. It's your relationship with the night. Loneliness also plays a quiet role. As social circles shrink and days become quieter, the night can feel louder. Emotionally, that's not weakness, it's simply the heart noticing what's missing. So if you find yourself awake at 3 a.m. with a head full of thoughts or a heart full of feeling, don't judge it. Try listening. Ask yourself, what's on my mind right now? Is there something I need to grieve, or something I need to remember? Is there someone I miss or something I haven't said? This is part of being human, and sometimes healing begins not with pills or techniques, but with attention and kindness. The truth is, aging doesn't just bring changes to the body. It brings deeper emotional capacity, and yes, sometimes that wisdom wakes you up at 3 a.m. Wonderful. Here's the conclusion to bring your 20-minute script to a gentle, powerful close. As we close this journey, take a moment, let the quiet settle, and let your breath slow down and reflect. Which part of this spoke to you the most? Was it the natural drop in melatonin, the body's way of saying, I've changed and I need you to notice? Was it your internal clock, ticking quietly ahead of schedule? Maybe it was the physical signals, small discomforts, medications, or aches that your body whispers in the dark, or maybe it was your heart. The emotional wisdom that surfaces, not because something's wrong, but because you've lived long enough to carry meaning. Whatever your reason for waking up at 3 a.m. Know this, you are not broken, you are in a season of change, and just like the trees adjust to the wind, your body and mind are adjusting to a new rhythm. Waking up early is not a flaw, it's a message, and messages don't need to be feared. They need to be heard. So here are 5 gentle takeaways. Support your melatonin with darkness, routine, and care. Shift your rhythm with intention, not frustration. Listen to your body's signals, even the small ones. Adjust your daily habits, one tiny step at a time. And finally, give your emotions a voice, even if it's just a whisper in the quiet of the night. You are evolving, not just aging, and with each new morning you have the chance to understand yourself more deeply than ever before. If this video brought you clarity or comfort, please share it with someone who might be lying awake right now, wondering what's happening to their sleep and to themselves. Subscribe, comment, and let us know. What did you learn today? What part of this resonated with your life? Your story might be the very thing that helps someone else sleep more peacefully tonight. Thank you for spending this time with us. Until next time, take care of your rhythm, your rest, and your remarkable, resilient self.